brace yourselves, hold on to your seats. I've got something really cool I want to show you here. So I've been trying to build the ultimate hill climb bike, and I've been doing this over the last few months. And I finally got it here, and I can show it to you. So this bike is ridiculously light, and I've spec'd it out and built it specifically for the British hill climbs. So the first thing to point out is that for British hill climb racing, you are required to have 2 brakes, front and rear, unless you're on a fixed wheel machine, in which case you can run 1 brake because you've got your fixed wheel as another braking system. So I need 2 brakes on there. So my intention with this bike is not to build the lightest bike possible. There's a lot of super mega weight weenie builds out there that have got loads of exotic carbon fiber parts, but this bike is a racing bike. It needs to be a functional bike, and so I need it to be really stiff and really work well. And so consequently, a lot of the equipment choices are with that in mind. For example, the chainset, Cannondale's Si SL2 cranks. There are lighter, fancy carbon cranks out there, but these, in terms of strength to weight, are absolutely brilliant. And the lightweights are really stiff as well. You don't want any lateral movement or brake rub when you're really putting the hammer down. The centerpiece of this amazing bike is the frame set, which is a Cannondale SuperSix Evo HiMod black ink frame. Cannondale's lightest and best frame they do. But we've made this frame even lighter and even better. And we've done that by taking it to Fat Creations, and they custom paint bike frames, but in this case, they've stripped the paint off and then just replaced it with a thin clear coat lacquer. And in doing so, they've managed to shed a ton of weight off the bike, because paint actually adds a lot of weight. So they've painstakingly rubbed the frame down and saved about 250 grams off the frame, and then some more weight off the fork as well. So this frame set was coming in at 940 grams for frame and fork, which is pretty awesome for a size 56. So not only is this frame really, really light, it's also really, really stiff. And it just looks incredible. Like, being able to see the carbon weave and the exact layup of this frame is just really, really cool. What Fat Creations has done is amazing. It's been a real labour of love. The next thing that we have to speak about is the wheels. So these are lightweight Meilenstein Obermayers, and they're tubulars because tubular wheels are lighter and we want to save weight. These aren't, although they're deep, they're not an aero wheel. The reason why we've got them is because they're incredibly light and incredibly stiff. They're also incredibly expensive, but lightweight were kind enough to lend us a pair for this project. And they come in at less than 1 kilo a pair, so that's brilliant. And also, because of the shape of the way the spokes work, the spokes are perfectly in line with the angle of the wheel rim, which creates an incredibly stiff wheel, which for when you're cycling uphill and you're putting out a lot of watts, then you don't want any flex in the wheels at all. And these wheels are incredibly stiff. The next thing I'm going to tell you about is the drivetrain. So this is kind of a bit special, it's a bit unique. So for shifting, we've gone for SRAM Red eTap, because wires can weigh quite a lot, so we don't want any wires, so that saves weight, and eTap's just really light. But we've only gone for a rear mech and no front mech. Now, it's really important to point out that eTap is not designed or intended to be run as a one-buy system, and SRAM is keen for us to reinforce that. However, it does work as a hack, and we can get it to work by running a narrow, wide front chainring. So the teeth are actually taller on that chainring, and as a result, the chain is less likely to drop off without the front mech being there. And this is something that we have seen Tony Martin also run in time trials. And I've gone for a 40-tooth single ring at the front and an 1128 cassette at the back, and that's ideal for most hill climbs in the UK when you're going for it. The main reason for wanting to run a single chainring is that it saves a load of weight. You don't need the big ring when you're going up 10% gradient hills. Well, I don't anyway. You might if you're really, really strong. Yeah, and we've also gone for the Cannondale Si SL2 chainset, because this is a really stiff, light chainset. And something really cool, if I spin this round, you can see we've got a power meter on the non-drive side crank. So this is cool, right? That's a 4i precision power meter. And we reckon that this is probably the lightest power meter that you can get. So the 4i precision weighs 9 grams, which makes it lighter than Stages, because Stages is 25. And that's 9 grams with the battery. What we've done is we sent this crank arm, this Cannondale crank arm, off to Canada, and 4i fitted this for us to make what is, I mean, we think this has got to be the lightest power meter out there. If you can think of something lighter, then let us know in the comments, but it's pretty cool. Then we've got other bits on there. So the pedals are Time Espresso 15s, which weigh 60 grams each. They're really, really light. And there are some lighter pedals out there, but as is the general thing with this bike, it has to be functional. I didn't want to build the absolute lightest bike possible. I wanted to build a very, very light bike that's also really stiff, really functional. And the Time pedals are awesome at giving you a good amount of float, but also a really nice big surface patch here for getting loads of power transfer out. And you don't feel like you're going to roll your feet on them at all. And the engagement is really good as well. The other thing to contend is some pedals out there, like Speedplay, can also be very light. But once you factor in the weight of the pedal and the cleat combined, these Time Espresso 15s are pretty much the lightest pedal you can get. So I've gone for EE Cycleworks brakes, which are less than half the weight of a pair of Dura Ace brakes. So saving a load of weight there. And the cables going into the brakes, Jaguar cables as well, and they're also really, really light. They're lighter than standard cable housings. The saddle is a Selle Italia C59. Now it's called that because it's supposed to weigh 59 grams. I weighed it and it came out at 61 grams, but I'll forgive them. It's incredibly light. And although it doesn't look especially comfortable, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but I went on a 3-hour ride on this bike and it actually is pretty comfortable. The cassette is a Rotor Uno cassette, and it's an 1128 and it's made from titanium alloy, and it's even lighter than the SRAM Red one-piece cassette by about 30 grams. So every little helps. I couldn't resist. I had to chop the handlebars. I've seen a lot of people on their hill climb bikes on the UK scene chop their bars, and I thought, yeah, let's do it. So these are actually Physique Cyrano 00 bars, and they're like about 300 quid. They're really light, really stiff bar, and there's something really, I felt really wrong chopping them down and basically ruining what was a really expensive, amazing bar. But why not? You only live once. And it saved about 25 grams on each side, so hardly any at all, but about 50 grams saved in total for chopping the drops off. But I don't need the drops, so I've saved a bit of weight, why not? So stem, we've got an FSA stem on here. There are lighter stems available, but I really like this stem. It's the right length for me, and it's also just really stiff and strong and stable, and I don't want the front end to feel like a noodle when I'm going for it. And also I've got the mount on the front for the Wahoo Bolt computer. Now quite a few people have said to me, why have you got a computer on there? Like, why are you, you save a load of weight, get rid of your computer. I want a computer on there, and the Wahoo Bolt is one of the lightest computers you can get, and it's aero. Although I don't envisage I'm going to be going especially fast on hill climbs. I want a computer because I want power. I've got the power meter on there. I want this bike to be functional, and I want to get power data so that I can tell you guys about it in future videos when we've done some hill climbs, and it'll just be more interesting if there's some power data. So I have made some aesthetic choices on this bike as well. Tan sidewalls look absolutely awesome, but these tyres are also really light, so I've actually put track tyres on. These are Vittoria Pista tyres designed for use on the velodrome. So I've sacrificed puncture protection, but they're really, really light. And they're about 200 grams each. The reason for this is that you're probably not going to get a puncture on a short hill climb, and I'm not going to be riding this bike around on these wheels through dirty lanes. I'm going to be going there, warming up on the turbo, jumping on the bike and going up the climb, and that's it. So from a pure performance point of view, light track tyres, we're going to see how we go. Hopefully I don't get any punctures, but we'll see. My favourite detail on this bike is the gold chain, and everyone loves a gold chain. Gold chains just look pimp, and it also means that if I ever meet Mr. T, he's going to like my bike too. Down here in the bottom bracket, as a bit of a marginal gain, we've fitted Sea-Bear ceramic bearings. This isn't anything to do with weight, it's just because ceramic bearings just run beautifully smooth, and it's like, with all the other modifications I've made this bike, you know, why not? Marginal gains, let's have ceramic bearings in there. Even the pedals have ceramic bearings in. The weight of this bike was 4.5 kilos when I weighed it the other day, but in a complete race setup, so once I added the computer and the power meter and the pedals, we then came to 4.8 kilos. So it's just 4.8 kilos for a complete bike with a computer and a power meter. I think that's pretty awesome. If you like this bike, then subscribe to the Cycling Weekly channel, because more videos are going to be coming out. We're going to be riding it, and we're going to make a film about doing the hill climb season as well, and what it's like to ride an incredible machine like this. So hopefully I don't embarrass myself and be all the gear and no idea, because this is an amazing bike.